A plumbing business owner came to me the other day saying that he needed to hire more people. He was overwhelmed, stressed, and was like, yo, I need to go get more people to come help me. But when we looked at it, that wasn't the real problem. That wasn't the first problem that he had. Peace, family. My name is Clive Morrison with CMJ Business Solutions, where we help business owners gain stability and get out of the day-to-day of their operations so they can actually work on the things that move the business to the next level. Now, what we were talking about was that he wanted to come in, he wanted to hire somebody, he wanted to hire people for his job, for the plumbing job. He was like, hey, you know what? I'm overwhelmed. I'm getting a lot of jobs in, and that's the problem. And I said, okay, you think that's the problem? Let's see what's really going on. So we use the 3-step framework. I look at what the symptoms are. Like, hey, we just do a diagnosis just like any doctor would. And then we look at what they think is the problem. He thought the problem was hiring, but then we started going into the numbers. And what I do is I ask questions. And so if you're saying just using the hiring process, right? When people say they need to hire somebody, my first thing is okay, how much money, how much would a contractor make you if they came in? And then it's like, oh, I don't know how much a contractor makes me when I come in, right? So you don't know the value of a contractor over a year. If a contractor came in for a year, or an employee came in for 1 year, how much money would they actually make you? Gross profit, right? So if they did $100,000 worth of jobs for the year and the gross profit was 50,000, you say, hey, I'm making $50,000 off them for a year. Now, the other thing is that how much money are you making per job, right? So if they come in, again, we're breaking it all the way down, is that you have to know the number of how much am I making per hour on a job. So if you have to pay the contractor $25 an hour and you're only making $30 an hour on the job, that's not worth it. So have you priced out your jobs? What is the pricing of your jobs? What is your gross profit on each job? What's the average ticket and what's the average profit margin on each job? Now, when we dug into these numbers, there was numbers that he didn't really know. So we had to go back and say, hey, this is the first thing that you need to do when we talk about the orders of operations. Go and know your numbers. And I see this with a lot of business owners. They don't know the basic numbers that they need to know, right? Marketing channels. Hey, how much money am I making? How much money am I making from each marketing channel? Google, Facebook, organic, whatever you're doing. My sales, what is my numbers on my sales process? How many appointments or quotes am I getting in? How many conversions am I having, right? So how many conversions from quote to conversion over 30 days? The next thing is client delivery. How many clients have given me either a testimonial or referral? That's how we gauge people are happy, because we say, hey, people either get a referral or they're giving a testimonial, right? So we look at that. Those are just the basic numbers. And then when you come to hiring, how much is somebody worth to me in the business? What am I making the gross profit off of this person when they come in? And you want to look at all of those numbers, because those numbers will allow you to make better decisions in the business, right? So a lot of times entrepreneurs be like, yo, I need more sales. But then a lot of times it could be like, hey, I'm not having poor retention. So if we go through the sales process, we can see that, hey, you're like, I need more customers. I need more customers. But on the back end, the real problem can be that you're not keeping enough customers. What is the LTV, the lifetime value of a customer? You may say, I need more staff. We went through that. You may have a poor process. You say, I need more time. But really, the business is founded on you. So how we diagnose, we look at what happened. We're taking that instance right there. What happened? I was overwhelmed. I didn't get to that. I didn't make that happen. And then we say, why did it happen? Well, it happened because I didn't know my numbers. Why does it keep happening? Because every time I try to hire somebody, there's not a process in place. And what would have to change so this couldn't happen again? Well, we'd have to put a process in place, right? To make sure that we're actually able to know the numbers, and then we have a hiring process. Then we will go to the next steps, which is we know the numbers, then we have a hiring process, then we're making sure that we hiring people and we're onboarding them. So all of those go back to mapping the business. So a lot of times the founder has a solution. We just ignore the solution, because a lot of times we'd be like, yo, that's not even the right thing. Because we just see how many times people don't diagnose their business, don't really go into the depths of it, because all the systems are connected. Marketing, sales, client delivery, the financials, and the operations. So we always look at that, and we look at those businesses. Now, of course, when we get to the hiring process, when you're saying, hey, we have a hiring system, make sure we have that, because it's the same thing as client acquisition. We say, well, how do we hire employees? Then you have HR, you have tech, you have all those, but you have other things. But we're saying the core system that I always focus on: marketing, sales, client delivery, hiring process, financials, and operations, which is just what's the backbone of the day to day. So we talk about found a solution, we ignore that solution. We have to map the business, right? Which I have a video on this channel about mapping the business. We have to map the entire business. If you're not mapping the business, if you don't have the processes, how they connect, how does a customer go across your journey, right? Marketing, sales, client delivery. How does an employee go across the business? How do they go from their getting hired to onboarding to what is the process for them to move up in the business? What does that look like? So once we map the business, we understand, we start collecting evidence, and that's the numbers, right? We start looking at the numbers, because once you map the business, then you'll see constraints in the business. So before, if you don't map the business, everything will be confusing. Everything, because it'll be all over the place. But once you map the business, give you an example. If I just say, hey, somebody clicks on my ad, and when they click on my ad, they come to my landing page, and then they submit a form, and they get on my calendar, right? Now, just from that process, I can look and see if I'm like, oh, first problem could be, we're not getting any appointments. Yes, that's the problem. And then we're saying, why is that? Well, the ad is bad. Well, how do you know that? Well, people aren't clicking on it. Well, how many people should be clicking on it? How have you seen improvements in the click rate? So just understanding that, then you're looking at the click rate, but how many people have clicked on it actually and came to the landing page and didn't submit a form? Or people came and clicked on it, submitted a form, and then saying, hey, they didn't book an appointment, right? They submitted their form, they got their quote, but they didn't submit an appointment. So when you look at all those numbers and look at all those processes, because it's mapped out, you can see where people are doing everything you need them to do, and then you can see where they're diverting. So going back to that example, they click the ad, then you can say, hey, 100 people clicked the ad, and this month we had 100 people, and 50 people actually came and filled out the form. Out of those 50 people, 25 set an appointment. Now, every month you can start seeing where the problem is. Is it going up? Okay, this month we had 100 people and only 20 people actually filled out the form. Like, now we see it's a conversion problem. What's going on right there in the process that we mapped out? All right, now that we found a constraint, now we produce the solution. Now we can say, hey, the problem is the ad. The problem is the ad copy, because we can say the landing page, because we had 100 and now we still have the same number, but instead of 50, we have 20. So we can say, hey, it's the landing page copy. That's what's going on right now, because we're not getting even enough people to qualify to even come and be able to book an appointment. So it's not the booked appointment problem, it's a problem upstream. And that's what you have to look at in every part of your business when you're mapping out the process. And that's why we say that a lot of times entrepreneurs are solving the wrong problem. All right. Anyways, I hope that helped you out, man. More videos. We out here. Diagnose the problem. Look at what's going on. Stay focused. Stay blessed. Peace.